Hey guys, what is up? This is Sean, Runbum Blanton, race director of Runbum Races. Also, I've been doing some podcasts for a while. We're going to kind of streamline some stuff now and call it the Runbum Podcast. For 16 plus years now, people have referred to me as Runbum. That's kind of my nickname, my trail name, etc. We haven't done a podcast for a while, but what a better time than right after our Wild Florida 50K 12 mile and 6 miler we just did this past weekend right here in White Springs, Florida at Stephen Foster Folk Culture Center and State Park. This is our second annual race, first of all, and it's awesome. It's point-to-point 50K, single loop 6 miler, 2 loop 12 miler, and runners get to run a lot of the Florida Trail along the beautifully historic Swanee River. It's a blackwater river, which means it's kind of like dark with tannins from the leaves and stuff that that kind of fall into it. This river is amazing. Florida Trail goes for about 74 miles along it. The entire river is basically comes from the Okefenokee Swamp, which is South Georgia. It flows into the Swanee River and creates this beautiful, beautiful river along, like it carves into like this limestone path, and you get a lot of like white sand beaches and stuff. So our race and the Florida Trail run right along that. This weekend was monumental, should I say. I'm really excited because we had the largest trail 50K in Florida. We had 190 people plus or minus register for the race. We had 150 plus or minus actually show up and start, and we had 141 people finish. So we had, I think, over a 90% finish rate for this. People get 11 hours. We want people to be able to go take photos, etc. And in 12 years of race directing, this is the first time ever, because of these individuals next to me and other people helping out, I was able to actually run my own ultra marathon. I've run a couple of my shorter distance races, but this is a gem, to be honest. Like, people always ask, hey, which race of yours would you run? Straight up, like, this was it. I had a blast. I had so much fun. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I had a lot of fun meeting new people and also running with a lot of my friends who I don't really get to run with because maybe they live somewhere far away, etc. So that was super cool. And and so I just wanted to talk to Deanna, my co-race director, and Scott, who is my videographer, photographer, and just does our website and does, kind of at large, jack of all trades. So maybe we can talk to Deanna and she can kind of like break down, like, this is a race from our standpoint. She was directing the 6 and 12 miler. I was running the race. Scott was running around and filming and taking photos of people. So let's talk to Deanna. Like, what was your experience like for Wild Florida? Because last year you ran
the 6 miler.
The 6 miler, yeah. And this year you were race directing and slinging chili.
Yeah. Well, last year I actually did the chili too. It's actually the first race I ever cooked the chili for, which kind of started the whole business relationship with just doing chili at the races. I ran the 6 miler last year, but definitely this year is a whole different, point of view and perspective on just being on a whole other side of just the race, right? Just behind the scenes, coordinating all the volunteers, planning out, all the food, the logistics, like where people need to be, and all of that for the race. And you got to run the 50K, which was awesome. And part of that was honestly because of just all of the volunteers that we had, right? Like, we couldn't do these races without having volunteers and having enough people to help make sure that the aid stations are set up smoothly, have enough people there, having people at the finish line, timing, putting down bib numbers, because we're old school and we don't do chip timing, right? And so this year it was just, it's a whole lot of sort of chaos behind the scenes, but we don't let people know that or see that. Like, we're doing everything, right? And everything ran really smoothly this year, I think. Awesome.
We weren't running everything because this year and last year we had the FTA, the Florida Trail Association, as the main actual organizer of the event. We're a partner with them. So it was really cool to see a lot of the Florida Trail Association volunteers and workers there, like working the aid stations, working packet pickup. And, we had a crucial role with Abe of, helping out, and he was almost a race director in itself there. So
Oh,
we had a
absolutely.
strong
Yeah.
team on this race.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would definitely say, had we not had Abe or just the FTA volunteers, which were over half of the volunteers for this race, like Sean would not have been able to run the 50K.
Absolutely. And Abe, who she's talking about, is Abe Christian from the Florida Trail. He actually certified both of us with a chainsaw. He does a lot of...
Not me.
Yeah, not
Not
him.
Scott.
They
Deanna
wouldn't
and
give
I.
me a chainsaw.
Yeah, and he has many jobs basically at the Florida Trail Association, but he does a lot of trail work. I mean, I think 2 years ago we were talking, like, I stopped counting my hours after like 900 hours of trail work. It's like, oh my God, that's something to shoot for. Yeah, and we actually, Deanna and I and Abe, along with another gentleman, basically a month ago, came and cleared after Hurricane Idalia. So that for those who ran this year, there was actually a little bit of debris left on the trail, like small sticks and stuff like that. That's all left over from the hurricane. Before that, I think we estimated, like, between me, you, Abe, and all the FTA folks that have gone on other work parties, we've cleared probably 1,200 trees, including small stuff, but 1,200 trees off of just our route. There's still 20 plus miles that haven't been opened up along the Swanee, which tomorrow we're going to go, Deanna and I are going to go and start working on that more and cut that back. And because of this race is unlike other Runbum races in the sense of this is a non-profit race. We donate all the proceeds to the Florida Trail Association. Last year, we raised, I think it was like $13,500. This year, I think it's going to be about $19,000, with our donation and sponsors and stuff like that. So that's amazing. Again, it's the largest 50K. I thought that's really fun. And you were at the finish line for the 6 and 12 miler, which is pretty much done by the time people at the 50K. You have no idea that even happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the last of the 12 milers were still finishing, but most of that gets wrapped up before the 50K people even start coming in. So it's a totally different vibe, after the 6 and the 12 miler, because I mean, for a shorter distance trail race, most of these people are really running a lot of it and really racing.
Yes.
Because we get a lot of road runners like this, and I asked a lot of people, this was their first trail race ever. So a lot of these people are coming from running road races to their first trail race out here, which is awesome. But they're running all out, right? So these people are coming to the finish line really hot and heavy, just running as far and fast as they can.
Heck
And
yeah.
so that's definitely different.
Well, yeah, that's, the 6 and the 12 mile, you have a lot of people running that, but the 50K, it's a fast course. Everything's runnable. There's a couple of things that are rolling hills and, little like ravines that you go down and pump back up into, but like 95% of it is runnable, and it's a good thing, and it's a very dangerous thing. You can see a lot of people go out there too fast, but no, I love the course. I ran it last year, and it's so beautiful. Like, it's in the 31 miles, it's so diverse between going like the tall pine open fields to the saw palmettos, and you're along the river the majority of the time, and you get this cool graffiti bridge that you run over at sunrise. Like, it's just so epic. Like, man, it's Florida nutshell, and a Florida trail running in a nutshell.
I love it. I mean, I didn't necessarily run or race the 50K, but we marked, and I've pretty much flagged with Sean or by myself most all of the course. And so I got to see all of it, which is beautiful. It's definitely a whole different perspective to be sort of like jog hiking it and putting up the flags and the signs compared to all out running and racing the event. But like, I'm thankful to get to see all of that beauty and take it all in, and just the race directing part. I really enjoy doing all of it. I get to interact with all the volunteers and the runners and just be part of it. It's awesome.
Well, it seemed like at the finish line, like a lot of our races have not a party vibe, but like family picnic vibe in the afternoon, when it gets a little bit more crazy. But we had people hanging out, we had music playing, and you had food there, and like, it's such a cool vibe. So many people stuck around this year to hang out, and it's awesome seeing all the people finish and then like getting to chat with them and hear their stories. And like you said, like, so many people this is their first trail race, and there was so much stoke from the people that have run the 6 mile, the 12 mile, or like it was their first 50K. And like, there's just like so much stoke in the atmosphere there that like, I don't know. Like, I'm excited to see how this race grows with like, it's almost, I feel like it's doubled down since its first year. And now this year it's this. Like, I can't wait to see what it is next year.
Yeah, we had a lot of first-time 50K runners, which is just awesome. But I love that, like you said, that sort of like family picnic vibe at the finish line, which definitely, you know, with the music and the food, and it's like I got a little bubble machine just to make it, you know, a little fun. The details.
I like how you inject that bubble machine in there.
I love the bubbles. I love the bubbles. Who doesn't like bubbles? Okay.
Yeah, it's a write-off.
But
Yeah.
hey,
Like,
Amazon,
why are
it
we
was
buying
$20.
these things?
I loved it. Okay, it was
It was
awesome.
fun.
But no, it was really cool because so many people were there hanging out because of like, oh, they ran the 6-miler, but they were waiting on their friends to finish the 50K, or like some of their like husband-wife duos would, like, their wife would run the 50K and the husband did like the 12-miler or the 6-miler, so they were like hanging out waiting for them to finish, or vice versa. And like, that's awesome because we saw so many people come out with their group of friends or their families, and they all ran a different distance for the race. And that's what we want. We want everyone to participate, be part of it, and most importantly, have fun, because that's what it is.
That's right.
What aid station was it? Swift Creek, where all the elves.
That was
There wasn't
Swift
Santa,
Creek.
But was that who was running
That was
that one?
Kyle.
That was Kyle from
Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, I showed up at that one and I was like,
He had a Pickle Rick costume too.
yeah. Like,
Oh, yes.
I got there and I was like, man, this place seems like it's gonna be a fun time to hang out. But I went out and did some filming and stuff. But like the energy there was fun because that was a crew access, so there was a lot of people there. But you know, I know that was FTA people and then the Tallahassee runners. Like, that was a fun place, and all the aid stations this year were great too. Like,
Yeah, when I saw that they were looking to get a little generator for their aid station, I was like, oh, they're gonna have a party. They're gonna be doing music, lights, like just all the fun stuff, which is awesome. Like, we love that.
For me, I don't know, designing, like, I design all our courses is something I want to run, and I'm so glad I got to run that because that's just what I had imagined. It's like the perfect mix of running. Those ravines are a little like steep up and downs, like the rolling hills. It kind of gives you an excuse to walk. And for me, as a non-Floridian, that is the most I've ever run after running 300 plus ultras. Like, that is the most I've ever run in a 50K because everything was so runnable. And, you know, one of the things I wanted to do with this race, I wanted to make it where the cutoffs and everything was, you know, there's some technical, there's some up and down, you know, so it's not completely flat. You're likely not going to PR, you know, if you live in Florida and you run a bunch of 50Ks. If you live somewhere else, you will definitely PR to 50K, most likely. But I wanted to make it where kind of like as Scott said, you got to see all of the ecosystems up here in North Central Florida. So you're running through like magnolias and live oaks, and then all of a sudden you jump into a pine flatwood, and then you dip over into some cypresses and stuff like that. And so it's just, that's the whole goal of it. And my other thought process of all this being a fundraiser for the Florida Trail Association and the state park was that it would create this event and space and place where we would have hikers, trail maintainers, and runners all come together for one event, in the hopes of, you know, and having a hiker friendly, you know, 12 mile race. And, you know, you could probably get away with hiking a lot of the 50K if you walk fast and you jog some here and there. But to create that environment where it turns some hikers, they catch the bug to want a trail run. And, you know, maybe last year, there's some people I spoke with that some ladies are like, oh, we did the 6-miler last year, the 12-miler, and they came back and did the 50K. Like, I love that. Before the start of the 50K, I was giving a silly speech and talking, and, you know, Scott was there and he was filming a little bit. And I said, by show of hands, how many people is this your first RunBum race? It was like 3/4 of people, hands
Easy,
went up,
yeah.
you know? And it's like, you know, because a lot of this area where people are coming from is not in our normal geographic of where we pull people from running, because most of our races are well north of here. And I asked after that, I said, how many people, is this your first ultra marathon? And it was like, again, 3/4 of the people. So that to me is really cool. Like the whole goal with RunBum Races and all this stuff. I'm not trying to talk about our stuff too much, even if it may seem like it. It's just something I'm very proud of, is that we're trying to build a community and help people do things that they thought were hard. You know, my other thought process for this race is a person who has done the entire Florida Trail, all 1,108 miles of it, was I wanted to create an event like this and Forgotten Florida, where I want people for it to be somewhere in between a trail running race and through hiking the Florida Trail. So like when you're getting on the Orange Blaze Florida Trail, there might be a little less flagging and you have to follow the blazes, not where you're gonna get lost or anything like that, but you kind of step into that, oh wow, this is more than just a trail run. Like a lot of these trails here are, as you can see if you ran it, are not really well like used or used at all. And so like that's to me is the beauty of this area, is it's like you kind of get this secret, you know, trail that kind of nobody knows about. You follow this Orange Blaze where it'll take you through the middle of White Springs, and White Springs itself, like I always thought there needed to be an epic trail running event here, because within 15 minutes drive of town, I bet you have 100 miles of trails and dirt roads around here. This is trail paradise on earth, maybe in the winter basically, but we put this on third weekend in December every year, and the reason for that being is this is when the cypress and the leaves start to change along the Swanee River, and it becomes very beautiful. The weather is trending pretty mild. I think yesterday we had a high of like 75, but 95% of this race you're in the canopy, and it's like, you know, I never got super hot yesterday running.
No, it was warm. It felt like Florida, but it was a great day, and you know, it was cool to see at the aid stations. People were smart. They were like obviously hydrating, but I saw a lot of people getting like ice bucket or like sponge baths and stuff over the neck and staying topically cool. But yeah, I mean, it was great. It's perfect Florida weather. I mean, to quote Floridians, like, this is why we live here. It's the weather like this right now.
Yeah. This time of year. Our winters are really great here in North Florida.
But yeah, Sean, you mentioned like how there's a lot of trails like in this area that people don't use. Like the Florida Trail, it's, you know, it's not like the Appalachian Trail or the Pacific Coast Trail with volume, I would say, or definitely not, but it's still, it gets a high volume. It's the biggest trail system in Florida, obviously, but like if you look at the trail system, there's a lot of like white blazes, blue blazes, yellow blazes coming off of the trail. And like sometimes it'll take you to town, sometimes it'll take you to cool little like offshoots. And something I didn't really know, but Abe was telling me yesterday is that when we take the runners onto the blue loop to go to Disappearing Springs Creek, that trail is pretty much inaccessible. And
Yes.
because of this race and like the trail work that we've done and the FTA has done, building a new bridge in there, it's basically reblazed this whole entire trail, and it's one of the most beautiful areas I've seen on a trail in Florida.
Dude,
And it's what, like a quarter of a mile
It's the
loop?
shortest
yeah, it's like
little
half
trail.
mile. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the coolest little trail. I mean,
And I don't know who built it, but like somewhere along our course on the Florida Trail along the Swanee, there is all of a sudden you come to this turn in the Florida Trail where the Florida Trail does one of its, you know, historic, you know, 180-degree kind of turns. You
If
know,
you're daydreaming, you'll miss it.
yeah, you won't
but
make
it's
it.
like, you know, we have it flagged, people don't miss it. But so what we do is we actually go and there's a sign and it says Disappearing Creek, and somebody made it once upon a time, cutting little pieces of vine and then nailing them in, and it says Disappearing Creek Trail. And then there's a sign, I think it says like, this Blue Blaze half mile is very scenic trail. Like that's kind of like around Disappearing Creek. And it's like, why do you call it Disappearing Creek? Well, the creek itself literally goes into a sinkhole and goes underground and then flows into the Swanee. It's really cool, and it's spring fed too. So we run basically by it on the trail, and then we go on some road beds up and some dirt road beds, and then we actually go to where like the headwaters, if you will, of the creek, the springs are coming out, and we turn around. It's kind of cool. But yeah, it's last year when we were on this trail, I was like, because I remember going on it once, I was like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. And then coming back to it last year when I went to flag it, and I was like, what the heck is this? I mean, it was like palmettos everywhere. The blazing was gone, because it's not a Florida trail. It's just some random side trail that somebody once upon a time built or blazed. And
I think that guy Randy built it, didn't he?
he
Or was
might have,
part of
yeah,
it.
he might
He
have
built the
built it.
bridge that we installed, the new bridge.
Right. And so you would go on this and you're kind of like bushwhacking. So Deanna and I and Abe walked that all, cleared it out with the chainsaw, hedged it out. And then one of the Florida Trail guys went and reblazed the whole thing. So it got fresh blazes this week, blue blazes. And then a couple days ago, we all met on like a Tuesday, and 6 of us carried a bridge that
Yeah, it took 8 of us.
8 of us, yes.
It's a big bridge.
It was
that
huge.
we
It was a
installed.
20-foot bridge that we all carried out through the woods, kind of to try
It
not
was
to
long.
pivot.
Yeah. There'd be a sharp turn, we're like, okay, like straight back, just to like make these sharp curves. It was definitely challenging.
And then we put that
But
in, and so we were basically, I mean, yeah, there's a couple volunteers that have been on it beforehand, but the race, I mean, by far, that is more traffic than that trail will get probably all year at like 140 people coming through there. It's just, this whole area is just like all these little gems of trails and stuff like that.
Well, what's cool about stuff like that too is like if you are interested in just not even running, but just hiking the Florida Trail and you're intimidated by it, there's a great app called Far Out. It used to be called Gut Hook, but it's Far Out, and you can download the GPS file for it. But it tells you everything of like where you can filter water, if you are doing a sectional hike or a through hike, of where you can stop in town and get food. But the cool thing about it is like there'll be a little like icon and it's like epic photo to view, and it'll show you something, or it'll show you that there's like these little spur trails. So wherever you are in Florida, you know, you're at least a 2-hour drive from the Florida Trail, like at some point. And so if you want to like check out the Florida Trail, like check out the app, do that, and see if there's just even like a loop you can make. Because a lot of times, like in Central Florida where I was at, like you could do the Florida Trail, then you hop on the yellow blaze, connect that to the white, and then hit like a Forest Service road or another trail. And then now, you know, you don't just have to do an out and back on a day hike, and you can go out on the Florida Trail just on a day hike and do however much you want to do. You can do a mile, you can do 10 miles, you can do a long run up or get some trail buddies out there. But yeah, it's such an awesome system of trails, and the more feet that we get on it is a good thing.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, like a lot of this section along the Swanee, like, you know, before we mow it, in fact, this year we didn't really get to mow a lot of this stuff because the number one focus was clearing the thousands of trees off of this just to be able to get through. So hopefully next year we'll be able to get back and kind of mow all of the Swanee and kind of cut stuff back. It wasn't bad this year at all, but you can see sometimes there's places there's like grass growing in the middle of the trail on the Florida Trail, and it's like, why does that happen? It's like, I can tell you as a trail builder, trail maintainer, etc. It's like, this happens because you do not have enough foot traffic on here, because, you know, grass is not going to grow, plants are not going to grow in the middle of the trail if it's being, you know, tromped down. And so I love this event for that. Like, you know, a lot of the sections, you know, get little to zero use unless it's from a through hiker. So I highly encourage you, get out on the Florida Trail wherever you are. And you made a comment, Scott, that was talking about, you know, within 2 hours of drive. Actually, Jim Kern, the guy that started the Florida Trail, how many ever years ago, I think 1966 was like the first year of the Florida Trail Association, which they started in Ocala National Forest, Clearwater Lake Trailhead, but little random FT facts. But his goal was to have the Florida Trail be within a 1 hour drive of 90% of Floridians. So, and I'm pretty sure that's pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you think about like driving across the state takes 3 hours. Like,
Right.
if you see us like looking up, where behind us is the White Springs Water Tower, and
There's a bunch
like
of vultures. Yeah.
hundreds of
They're
vultures
flying.
just flying all
Awesome,
around
yeah.
us. I
God.
think they smell us, so
Yeah.
they're going after my banana.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, I mean, so I got to run the race, which was really cool, and not to take the mic too much, but it was really fun because, and we'll segue this in, at the end of what I'm about to say into talking about, you know, some tips for running 50Ks, especially a flat 50K, and even stuff if it gets kind of hot. And I'll talk about kind of what I did, not like, look at me, I don't really care. I'm still smiling from yesterday. I ended up second overall, which is awesome. Caught the guy in first, ran out of calories, and he got me hard at the end. Dude, heck of a run. The gentleman led from Gavin, I forget his last name. He led from start to finish, which is epic, dude, way to go. We had an amazing race on the ladies' side. That was really cool. At one point, you know, the top 3 or 4 women were within like 2 minutes of each other, and that was like, I don't know, 15 miles in. So I mean, it was a really close race till that point on the women's side. But yeah, it was interesting, kind of scurrying all around before the race, doing race director things like, oh man, dang, I should probably be eating breakfast or drinking some water or like, like
50K.
putting shoes on. So I was like getting on the bus, like without a shirt on and everything in my hand, being like, okay guys, we're gonna go.
Like having me go get you Band-Aids for your nipples and a water bottle. It's like, I don't have that.
Thank you.
Where are my shoes?
Yeah, if you ever take advice from Runbum, you know, take it. He knows his stuff, but it's definitely do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Dude, the last race he does, he's doing this speech about how like, all right guys, it's only like 6 miles between aid stations, but it's going to take you longer because it's a mountain race. And, you know, make sure to bring water with you, because even though it's 6 hours, it could take you, you know, an hour and a half, or 6 miles, it could take you an hour and a half, 2 hours just to get to the aid station. And I'm running this race too, and like we start off and we're 200 yards off the starting line, and Sean looks over at me, he's like, man, I should have brought a water bottle.
Yeah, you forgot.
I always get a gas station water bottle and run with it in my waistband.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
But for me, so like I went and I honestly hadn't planned on racing, but I wanted to just keep a solid pace. And I'll give you some advice. Know what kind of runner you are, and know kind of where you generally fall in races. And if you're new to trail running, always way err on the side of caution and the side of like, hey, I'm actually running back of the pack. Even if you're a faster road runner, would be my recommendation. But I looked at last year's race, and this is slightly different. It might be a quarter mile shorter, it might be a quarter mile longer. I don't know. There's like 1 or 2 small things that we tweaked. But I looked, I was like, okay, 5 hours-ish was like the previous winning time. And I was like, okay, for, you know, basically a 10-minute mile average. And it's like, okay, I always try to keep that in mind. I even said that before the race, like, hey guys, last year somebody won this in like 5 hours. You know, that's a 10-minute average, right? You know, if you do 5:30, that's 11 minute. If you do 6 hours, that's 12-minute miles. So the crazy thing is, we can all talk about that, think about that, whatever, but you really got to keep yourself in check. And I think I took off and basically just settled into like, all right, man, you're just going to run, but you're going to go easy. I had so many people passing me. The first 3.5 miles are insanely easy.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And it's
dangerous,
very
yeah.
easy to.
Dangerous in a good way.
Yeah, because it's double track. It's
flat.
It's non-technical, and it's super easy. Like we're talking with people, it's super easy to go very, very fast. But I kind of like looked down and kind of was like, oh man, like I'm right around 10 minutes. Like cool, I don't need to push it. I get to the bridge. I'm again, people are passing me. And I know the kind of runner that I am is I'm better at trail running than road running. And so for me, the first 3.5 miles is kind of more road speed. So I just kind of let everybody go. And then we hit the trails. I can run faster downhill. I kind of lean downhill, and I'm good with technical. And I think if you ever run this race, my advice to you is wear something with very good grip, because there's a lot of this that have leaves, pine needles. You know, it's soft, and you want that grip. And so that's how I made my shoe decision. But yeah, when we hit the trail, you know, like 3.5 miles in, I kind of started on the more technical stuff to start to pass people, even though I was going what my perceived effort was. I had a heart rate on there, but I was like, oh, this is too high. But I know myself well enough that like, okay, I'm willing to deal with that. So I put my watch just on average pace, and all I did was like run faster or slower based on like a 10-minute flat. And I kept it at like 9:55, like 9:53 to like 9:59 for like the first 10 miles. And, you know, with all races and all routes, I would suggest this is like nothing is always, unless you're running like a road race or something like that, you're going to have spots that are technical, spots that are climbing, spots that are slower. So like you trying to average a pace, and I would not recommend on ever running
on the actual pace.
On your pace, yeah. Okay?
Well, and one thing that I would add to that is with the watch, like first thing, like you said, you were looking at your heart rate, like the heart rate on your watch, like if you're running a long distance, like mine will jump up and say, I've got a 200 BPM heart rate. Right. So I never pay attention to that, like if it's not a chest strap. But What I actually do is I turn my watch to, like, I have Garmin, so I turn auto lap off. And so I lap every aid station or every major one. If it's like a water drop that I'm just going to blow by, but I'll do the research the week before, make a spreadsheet or whatever, and be like, okay, so from here to this first aid station or like my drop bag or whatever, if it's a longer race, I'll know, okay, it's going to be 10 miles. And then at least when I do that, like I have it now set. I went in and I tweaked it to where on my lap one, I don't even see the actual pace. I just see the average.
Yeah.
So that way I know, like, and then it's also broken down so you know, like, okay, at the beginning of the race from aid station 0 to 1, okay, I averaged my 10-minute pace. And then from 1 to 2, I averaged a 9-minute pace. I should slow down a little bit, or I'm feeling great. Maybe I should keep it going. But at least that way, you know, if you're doing your average over the whole entire race, it's, you know, in a 50K or anything longer than that, you know, there's so many variables that could like change that average, you know.
And the goal is, like, I'm gonna tell you this right now, as far as 50K training plans and 50K advice, we actually have between the three of us, I dictated some chicken scratch to Deanna, who cleaned it up and gave it to Scott, who put it as a training plan. But on the runbumtours.com website, we actually have a free 50K training plan. 10 out of 10 recommend. There's not trying to sell you anything, just trying to help you train better, run smarter, etc. But yeah, and with that being said, one of the things that it hits on pretty constantly is that consistency trumps all. And my goal and my thought process was like, I'm just going to run as consistent as possible until 18-ish miles in, and then really try to just drop the hammer if I'm feeling good. If not, I'm just going to have a good time. And I had a great time. I talked to all these people I haven't run with in a long time, or haven't run with before, my friends. It's super cool. And then get about 18 miles in, and I got in a second. I was like, how close is the guy in front of me? They're like, he's 5 minutes. And I was like, okay. So I pretty much took off and ran my fastest miles. Like, I was kind of consistently, if it was easy, doing like 9:15, 9:30, like whatever, you know, it's nothing crazy fast. But for a trail, it felt quick. And then we hit like a really runnable section where we're coming through like a grassy roadbed for like a mile and a half, maybe 2. And I think I was like 8:06, 8:16, and was really making up time. And by the time we got to the last aid station with 6 miles to go, they're like, he's a minute and a half in front of you. I'm like, oh my God. So being the idiot that I am, I grabbed like 2 pieces of banana, like, you know, whole banana basically, and chugged some ginger ale, and then took off. Cause I when I'm running, I can deal with hitting the wall and kind of run. It's uncomfortable, but you know, it's fine, you know? So I take off, and half mile later, I go down to reach into my pocket to grab this banana. I take a bite, and I go, I spit it out. The banana was hard, and it was rotted in the middle of it. And it's like, I guess I probably should have seen that or something, but like, that's totally my goof. And I'm like, oh, gross. And I go to do the same thing with the other one, same thing. And I'm like, God, what the odds of that? It's so bad. So, and it's funny because I bought the bananas, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I could only
karma coming full circle.
It's like, yeah. And at this point, I'm like, dang, this is going to be a horrible time. So I was like, all right, well, you still have some calories in you right now, so like, let's keep going. And so basically I catch up to the gentleman first, and it's like, as soon as I got there, I was like, all of a sudden I just felt all of my energy just like, dude, you're now have nothing in your stomach and you're running on fumes. And this is like arguably the hardest part of the course, in the sense of like, it's technical for a little bit, and then there's like rolling hills, and I'm like, oh God. And I know there's like 3.5 miles maybe to go, and I was just miserable. And we hit the Florida Trail. It was like maybe 2.5 miles ago. I was like, hey man, I'm out of food, dude. Please just go give them hell. You know? and I watched like my miles go from 8 to 9s, which was, you know, still going. And then I catch him, and it's like 11:30, 11:40, you know, which is still like, you know,
great. Yeah.
It's so great. But man, I just felt absolutely terrible. And when I got to the finish line, you know, having that empty stomach is, so learn a lesson from me. Always have extra calories on you, just in case. If you have like a zipper pocket in your shorts, which I didn't, basically had basketball shorts, like Under Armour. But make sure you carry like that extra reserve, 100, 200 calories with you. But with all that being said, a lot of tips and tricks I did in there. I would catch up to people and kind of run with them. I think a lot of people are very eager and antsy to just kind of like run past people. It's like, dude, in an ultra, and I heard this a lot too, oh man, I'm just trying to run really fast or bank some quicker miles in the beginning before it gets hot, or, before I don't feel good. Let me tell you, that doesn't work. I've tried it. He's tried it.
Oh, come on.
She's tried
I've
it.
been there.
Like we've all done it. So help me help you. Consistency. You really have to rein in. It's so hard the first 7 or really like first 5 miles when people were coming by me, and I'm like, okay, that's not my pace, but knowing that I'm running my own race. So, and then also another thing I did was when it started to get warmer, should I say, it's not hot, but it's warmer. I would dump water on me. So a lot of people, they're pounding salt pills, they're, chugging water and doing all this stuff. A lot of times you are pretty adequately hydrated unless it's super hot, and you really need to cool your core temperature. And that's going to be harder when you're drinking it. It's better for me to just dump it on my head or the back of my neck, and it cools me off more. So like a lot of times I would come into the last 2 aid stations, I would come in there, dump water on me, then fill my bottles, drink a little bit, then fill Gatorade, and then leave. And then the other thing is, always navigating too, and not, if you get to a hard section, don't push. Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to run through this because it's hard. It's like, no, you're expending a lot of energy. So I don't know. So anyways, I'm just babbling, but that was my event, my race yesterday. I had a blast. Like, it was super fun. What a beautiful course.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that. I was just, every time I see the river, I just start smiling. It's like, it just brings me back to doing the Florida Trail. So hats off to everybody. That was super rad to see so many new trail runners, ultra runners. Like, dude, come back and thank y'all for giving us a reason to do trail work and give a ton of money to the Florida Trail Association that they use to help maintain the trail, buy new pieces of land, pay salaries, et cetera, to keep this dream of the Florida Trail going.
Yeah, and I would say, like, we'll pitch something that we're not even a part of, but like, go to
Herbalife.
Yeah, I'm here to talk to you guys about essential oils. Like, I think it's floridatrail.org.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you go there, right now is peak maintenance season because
Yes.
It's not the forest and everything's not flourishing right now.
It's not hot.
Slows down.
Yeah, it's not
as
hot.
Yeah.
But now is the time that they all go through and they have the bush hog mowers, they have chainsaws, they have to be certified for that. But like, you go in on a volunteer day, you get some loppers, some clippers, you get hedgers, whatever. We have all sorts of tools. They provide all the tools for you. You get PPE, you wear protective gear, but it's a really fun time. A lot of them have like, and when I was doing the Central Florida ones, like we'd always kind of have like a picnic in the middle of like the work day.
Yes.
Someone would drive their 4-wheel drive truck out in the middle of nowhere, and like we'd have this like, someone would have like a picnic table, and we'd like have like sandwiches and stuff. So it's a really fun time. You'll meet some really cool people, some really knowledgeable people, and not just about trails. Like a lot of the people that work for the FTA and volunteer consistently are avid trail hikers, but they're also into birds, into trees, and like, so you can learn just a wealth of knowledge about anything. It's a really fun time, and I highly recommend doing that. floridatrail.org. Find whatever, like there's Central Florida, there's different regions throughout the state, and check it out.
Absolutely. And as we were talking earlier, like the Florida Trail Association is awesome, and all of these chapters are really cool. I think
There's 11.
What's that? There's 11.
11
yeah.
chapters.
And I think I've joined probably 7 of them for work trips from like Central South Florida all the way up to the Panhandle. So that's been really cool. The people you meet on this are awesome. Typically, I'm always the youngest person there unless somebody brings their kid. And our whole thing is that, a lot of the trail work and volunteer work that's being done is by, retired folks. And I think my goal, and, Scott's definitely along the lines of that, and I know Deanna as well, is to get younger people into trail maintaining and
trail running.
And trail running. But one of the things I've seen is that the stuff that we do when we're doing trail maintenance and stuff like that it's such, like, you meet the coolest people ever, people from all walks of life, and I've learned so much, like, about the fauna and flora and how to build bridges and, you know, the chainsaw. It's so unique, and there's just nothing like it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, like, I heard a couple of stories during the race that were really cool. One of the ones I think you were talking about was the girl that was gonna drop or something.
I could talk to this one. Yeah. So, well, maybe we'll have to talk to Kyle about and get the full story, or find her.
He told me.
But so Kyle, who was our aid station captain at Swift Creek.
Yep.
It's the second time I've forgotten that aid station, and it's the only one I've talked about today. But he had a lady near the end, but I think he said 20, 30 minutes before cutoff, gave him her bib, said she's dropping. And he's like, okay, well, just sit over here. We'll figure out a ride for you. And then a couple minutes later, another girl comes in just on the struggle bus and just having a really hard time. But she wanted to keep going. And so the aid station captain, Kyle, said he looks over, and a couple minutes later, she walks up, asks for the bib. They're fueling up, and she's going out there to help her make it through the last, 10 miles or whatever it was from that aid station. And so that is just like a small example of like how awesome this community is, because like I'm just gonna assume they made a friendship out of that, like those two.
Oh, they did.
really
Yeah, she
cool.
was super stoked. I saw them finish. It was like 3 ladies that finished together, and she was like, yeah, really excited about that. I mean, I know you guys would probably back me up on this, but I've made some really good friendships just from talking to people like while I'm running races, and yesterday was no different. I mean, it's like, even if I'm racing all out, like I still will still talk to people, like,
well, what's funny?
it.
What's funny with you saying racing all out, and he's talking about how he couldn't catch the first place person. Throughout the day, we try and run. We get photos out, social media throughout the day. Just keeping people updated with the race, and so our media team and Deanna, and we're all just kind of collaborating. And Sean's got his phone on him, and like, mile 8, here's a photo of someone crossing the bridge, and he's taking the time to take photos and send them to us so that we can post them. And so, yeah, it's funny when you say you're going all out, but then it's, you're still like out there talking to people, you're stopping and taking photographs. And like, and that is the thing too, is that like, I would say if you're not trying to podium, but even this guy here who gets second still stops and takes a photo and enjoys like breathing it in, like looking at, wow, look at this epic view. Look at, just stopping and looking at the river. And like, there's so many little spots where like, you're on a trail and you can see the river, but it's, you've got a little like layer of forest between you, but then all of a sudden it opens up and you're on this like sandy beach on this like epic river. It's just like, there's so many cool things to like see. And so it's like, if you have a strong goal, go out there and crush it, and like, don't, just stare at 3 feet in front of you so you don't trip. But like, yeah, take time to like look around and take photos, meet people. And even Kyle from Swift Creek Aid Station, I was talking to him, and when I first met him, he didn't look familiar because he had a wig on, and he was wrong.
The mullet wig.
But come to find out, I had raced a race with him in Tallahassee like 2 years ago, and so
that's cool.
it's like, yeah, it's like you just meet people all the time, and like they become like this like that family picnic vibe, that.
No, you make friends forever with people. So, and it's funny because like you're going all out. You still called me like 8 times on the phone.
I did. I called Abe too, and I called
Abe
Scott
like 5 times. It's like, dude, and I was like, dude, run. Like, enjoy the race. Like, we have everything handled. Like, just run the race.
Yeah,
but
it
it's
stresses
cool.
me out. So, something goes wrong, it's still on me whether I'm running or not.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, and it was funny. I got a call. This is a funny story. So I got a phone call during the race because I have my phone on. I'm like, oh my God, what happens if something's marked wrong, or there's not enough water or something, whatever, right? So I get a phone call from a gentleman whose wife is running the race. My buddy, well, I won't mention his name just because it's funny, but anyways, and he calls me, he goes, hey man, I just got my car stuck, down by Swift Creek. I guess he had driven over in like some mud because he thought it would be cool in his Subaru, and got it dug in. And I'm like, dude, what? I'm running. And this is right before I saw you at that bridge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, what? Like, and he's like, I'm probably, labored breathing. He's like, yo, are you running right now? I was like, yeah. He's like, He's like, oh, where at? I was like, I'm running the race. And he goes, oh man, I'm so sorry. I'll figure it out. It's only like a half mile to jog to the aid station. Like, I'll get it, click. But as he didn't know I was running, it was kind of funny.
That's crazy. That was me in Forgotten Florida 2 years ago. I had a rental car and like a car is coming. It was like a nice double track Jeep road, but it was a Tesla. It was coming this way, so I knew the road was fine. And I'm in this rental car, and like she's trying to go around and I'm trying to go around, but like we had that high water that year. That was 2 years ago. That was crazy. But like, so there's just drainage ditches on both sides, and like so she drives by, and we make eye contact and kind of did the like driver like, hey. I had enough time for that, and I just feel my car go and just slip into the mud. Yada yada. That's a story for another time. But yeah, Sean had to come out and tow me out, and literally almost totaled my car in a back Florida drainage ditch.
What can you do?
I've wrecked my Prius back there, like not literally, but like the undercarriage because of that like tall grass and those ditches. Like
it's
going
not
back
meant
to
for
Culpeper.
you to go off-roading. Like yes,
like it ripped the whole undercarriage off from like 2 years ago. At Forgotten Florida, like
yeah, I get it. There's some guy on here like like I got a lift kit on my Prius. Okay, fine. That's not what that is meant for.
no.
Yeah. Well, anyways, now we're just talking about nonsense. So thank you everyone who ran this race and was a part of it. I mean, it's really cool to be able to say this was Florida's largest 50K trail race. Like that's pretty cool, right? So we're hoping for next year, 2024, we're definitely going to grow this event. We may add some more distances, maybe a 100-miler, maybe a 50-miler, not sure. But we want to do something too. We were talking like how Sunday morning after the day after the race, be cool to kind of have like a big pancake breakfast, maybe go on like a group hike, maybe have some music or something, give people a reason to stay here in White Springs and just kind of hang out. You know, it's always, and I get it, life happens. I always get kind of sad. I'm like, man, all my friends are leaving. Like people get done with the race and leave. I'm like, man, I wish we could, I wish I had the energy to be able to hang out. And this is small enough. And basically I didn't do anything because, you ran,
everything
even though I just destroyed my body.
It's like you ran the race. It's not like you finish running the race and you go immediately into work mode to like doing this. You were like wrecked for like 2 hours.
I was so fucking...
And it's after 2 hours, I was like, hey, Sean, I was like, I really do need like you to help me out here.
I was so haggard.
I was like, I'm
my
sorry,
God.
but like we have stuff that needs to be done, and you're still the race director too.
I'm like, it's cool. I'm going into rhabdo. It's fine.
It's like I get it. You're recovering. You just did a 50K, but this is like we're still working here. We got stuff to do.
Yeah, but with these kind of races, our goal with like what you're talking about with next year is like for anything, like, you know, if you're bringing your family along, like don't just run the race and like get out of town. Like even though this is like White Springs is a small town, like it's beautiful. Like you're on this river. The next day you could take your family out and go canoeing. Like there's places where you could drop canoes and they'll pick you up. Like, so it's like, you know, stay in the area and like hang out and see what it's got to offer. Cause it's not, that's the other thing is it's not always just about trail running. Like, you know, if you run, you know, Cloudland, you know, go up there and go rock climbing or something, you know, like go explore and just see other things and do other things. And what you can go paragliding and hang gliding up there too.
There
right?
you go. Yeah. Come on.
Have Sean take you paragliding.
I'll do that. There you go.
Yeah. No, but there really is so much to do here in this little small town area, really, with the river, the trails. There's bike trails. You can rent mountain bikes and the canoeing, and you're within like a 30-minute drive to go swim in some clear, beautiful springs.
Yeah.
Like it's paradise up here, I think.
Blue sky showers.
Hey, I was in Disappearing Creek. Sean mentioned the bridge, and he's like, if you're feeling daring enough, like you can get in there and stand in the creek and film it this way. It's like, all right, like hop in. It was amazing.
Felt good, yeah. I was down in there busting out boards with a sledgehammer the other day, like knee deep in some muck. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for running. I hope you enjoyed us just talking about my run that nobody cares about and the event. And I'm glad that everybody, but hopefully you gained some little tidbits of maybe I should do this differently or whatever. I mean, a lot of this is run and learn, right? And we're just here to have fun. You know, I see a lot of people being very hard on themselves. So hopefully you guys all had a really good time. You look back, you gained knowledge, you gained experience, and you made some new friends and had some good post-race chili. Compliments of this lady right here.
Thank you.
And hopefully, whenever Scott gets done putting together a video, you enjoy that and it helps you kind of take you back here to White Springs and Stephen Foster. And I encourage you guys to come here, not just with the race, but any other time of the year. It is beautiful. I love it here, and I hope you guys had a good time. With that, I say thank you, and we will see you soon on the trail.